Ladies and gentlemen, Francesca Fiorentini.
All of their exes were psychos. And then you know when you meet someone and they swear that all of their exes were psychos, and then you slowly realize that, oh wait, I'm talking to the person who was the problem in the relationship. Unrelatedly, the Young Turks. And I'm going to make this as brief as possible because there are a million far more important and pressing things going on right now. As you know, actual fascism. But to make it brief, Cenk, the head of TYT, recently hath forboden me from appearing on any TYT shows because, in part, I said that him capitulating to right-wing framing on many issues meant he was, quote, acting like a bitch. And the truth is, he was, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But first, some backstory. So, I have been a contractor at TYT for 10 years now, appearing on all of the shows as a fill-in host, as a guest host during election coverage, on the TYT.
More and more personal. So after that discussion, this happened.
I like that we can both be very Mediterranean about it and get like super mad, but then rein it in and be cool, and then be like, we're just gonna yell, and then we're gonna be fine, and then we're gonna get over it. So that's the kind of beer I like to have.
Yes, thank you.
2 days later.
I mean, I have my own thoughts on like why he's doing it. I think, if you think your brain was broken by the 2024 election, I think we're looking at a case where someone's brain was broken even harder.
Okay, but look, guys, if she had said that about another host, I probably would have drawn the line there. But
on this is incomprehensibly stupid in every possible way. Let's be 100% clear about that. So, high school and college sports are actually in the most similar boat, and as there is K through 12 sports, because these particular leagues or these particular athletic departments are essentially mandated by law. Title IX of the Civil Rights Act. They are backed up in.
That's all hunky-dory. Laughed in my face about there ever being any kind of detention camps. Hello, Guantanamo. Capitulates to the right-wing framing that Venezuelan gangs from Tren de Aragua are taking over everywhere, and we've got to get rid of them. Meanwhile, they're innocent Venezuelans being held in Guantanamo right now. TYT main show, on the Damage Report, and on Indisputable, along with a lot of other shows. I have always
But it's about me, so I want to give more leeway. My brain is broken. And by the way, that's still, okay, the first time she's getting super personal. Collaborator, maybe that's a political opinion. Now we're a broken brain, even though we were supposed to have a beer and we were supposed to hash it out and be okay afterwards.
Alright, so I'm going to try to break this down as best as I can, okay? So, you got, Mr. Boss Man here, Mr. Tough Guy, CEO, and everybody needs to kiss my ass. He's got his little fiefdom, right? When you got your little fiefdom, then you'll say, oh, the politicians, man, they're such a bunch of bitches. Damn us, dumbass politicians and dumbass cops and dumbass people, they're all a bunch of dumbass bitches. And then Francesca's like, hey, wait a second, trans people are people too. And then Cenk is like, fine, okay, trans people are trans, but you know what? They shouldn't be playing sports. I don't want them to play sports. And Francesca is like, well, I think they should be allowed to play sports. And then Cenk is like, well, I don't think that they should. And then Fran is like, but they shouldn't. Wait, which is it? And then this guy is like, supported by taxpayers. Supported by taxpayers. And then Cenk comes back with, well, there's crime and shit. And then Francesca's like, well, yeah, crime, but, cops. And then Cenk is like, well, crime's bad. Nobody wants to do crime. And it's like, yeah, but, the cops, they suck. So you put more cops on the street. Is that going to solve the crimes? I'm not for sure if more cops is the damn answer. And then Cenk is like, well, crime and trans and hell, Trump just won. This shit's going to change for generations. Like, you're going to have to, evolve with the times, they got 77 million votes. You need to talk to the conservatives to peel some of them votes away. And it's like, yeah, but they're fascist, they're right-wing fascist piles of shit. You're going to tell me that Dr. Phil and motherfucking, goddamn, weird-faced McGee, you're going to, talk to that one fucking, he can't even dribble a basketball. He tries to do a layup and then hits the ball in his face. what's that fucking guy with the big face, with the big weird face? And then Jika's like, what do you mean big weird face? You know, spit it out. Tell me which guy you're talking about. And it's like, well, Dr. Phil, okay? I know the Dr. Phil name, but I don't know. I think are you losing the plot here? I might be losing the plot. Let's go back to the...
And you do not have alternative leagues. These are not private organizations. Therefore, it doesn't make any sense for you to allow people to compete in high school that are biological males to females, but then have the cutoff be in college, be in university, especially when your recruitment for...
Okay, that's awesome. So, you know, thanks for breaking that down.
Talk about the real reason, apparently, for this haircut, and it's kind of heartbreaking. Before we get there, let's...
And then Blake Lively just comes in and just kind of fucks everybody. She just kind of fucking her, fucking you, fucking me, fucking him, fucking, you know, them, and it, and fucking everybody, you know?
Let's play this clip where Brandon Schraub and Joe Rogan are talking about the Justin Baldoni case.
You've been following the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively thing?
Bro, Blake Lively, talk about ruin your reputation, and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, they fucked up. Ryan's trying to get out of it now. He's trying to get out of the lawsuit, and they're like, you were a key part of this.
This is what you get, though. This is what you get. You're trying to fucking ruin a guy's livelihood by using the Me Too movement?
Because they were trying to take over the movie.
Yeah.
They were trying to take over the movie and the whole franchise. He owned the franchise.
Wait, people forget this was a franchise. It's a couple books.
The whole thing's crazy.
They're fucked.
And he's suing the New York Times.
They talk about the Hunger Games or something? What's going on there?
Always helped out in a pinch. I guest host last minute, and yes, I was paid. And if you're watching this and you are a TYT contributor and you are not getting paid, stop going on TYT until you do. I've never been a full-time employee, never got health care, never got maternity leave when I had my child. But back in 2018, I was hired for a 6-month contract to pilot a show for $3,000 a month. Then, however, their funding bottomed out and I was let go. And they broke their contract. My reps at the time thought I should sue to get the full 6 months of payment and work that I was owed, but I didn't, because I told them that TYT was good people. And
I like this look of Franny Mae without makeup. I think is that rouge? She got a little rouge going on there, but definitely seems a lot less makeup in this.
But apparently not okay afterwards. But then that was the tip of the iceberg. She continued again and again. Here's the next one.
I do think it's sad that even though they allow people like us into the fold and the fray, they refuse to learn from us or listen to us. And I think that when you have been doing this work for so long and you still cannot grasp the idea of intersectionality, how race and gender and class all intertwine with one another, and how the right, the fascist goal is to divide us based on these lines, I don't know, like, who you are. Like, I'm...
She's right there. That's fucking brilliant. That was fucking brilliant.
Scholarships and all sorts of things starts at the high school level for those college positions. And again, it doesn't make sense through K through 12 sports or anything of the sort. And
so this guy is like, hey, you know, bunch of social justice. What are y'all? You guys just a bunch of MLKs? Well, I don't care about no MLK. I got a skeleton in my background. And, you know, I'm an actual justice warrior here, so I got a skeleton in my background here next to the brick wall, and then I got, you know, these glasses, and then I got, you know, this was a Batman T-shirt. So, you know, I'm cool, right, guys? You know, I'm cool.
Times, and he's got a great case.
He's going hard in the paint. But that's what it takes.
That's what it takes.
It's like Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
He's like, all right,
Yeah.
he did for the boys.
Exactly. You got to do it.
You need real motherfuckers to be like, nah, man, I ain't going out like this.
Yeah, especially a guy like that. It was like known as being like this really sweet, nice guy.
Yep.
And then it's like, all right,
Dude,
enough.
he posted the receipts.
Oh,
he's
the
like, oh,
receipts are
remember our
crazy.
tech exchange?
How about she told him to come into the dressing room while she was breastfeeding,
What a fun
and then
ass.
part of the complaint was that he came into the dressing room while I was breastfeeding. Like, you literally have a text exchange back and forth. They just never thought that anybody was going to come out with the receipts.
Because no one's ever done it, because everyone just bows
Because everyone's
down.
scared.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Reynolds A-list, Blake Lively A-list. Like, they're the queens.
That's like 18.
Oh,
That's it. He gets interrupted, but I would have loved to hear Joe keep going on that because it's such a good point. Yeah, look, we're learning that with our documentary. A lot of people are afraid to come forward and afraid to speak out. Joe's not afraid. He says what he wants. He always has. But still, it's still a massive, big platform, and to see him out there talking stress.
And I wanted
Most people
to
are too
maintain
lazy
my
to do this, but
relationship.
it saves
And I
homeowners
did.
a fortune.
That is until things started to turn.
He's
for
been
TYT
spending time with his
politically.
children.
And this started happening around the pandemic. Around the pandemic,
I don't even know if you're smart. You know what I mean? I don't even know. First of all, I don't know who your political mentors are. I don't know who you look up to. I don't know what your touchstones are. I don't know if you know your history in terms of like civil rights, women's rights, gay rights struggle in this country. I don't know anything. I call into question all of that. It sounds like you are just an opportunistic mouthpiece who wants clicks time and time again.
It's interesting. They got 243,000 views, and she's got 219,000 views. So she's holding her own. She's working for Zateo, and she's got the Bituation Room. So she's got her own little show going on. She's got her own little labor of love, right? The Bituation Room. She's got Zateo. And ultimately, they're both against forced to vote. You know, who gives a shit about forced to vote? Why would we give anybody motherfucking health care, right? They don't give a shit what Breonna Joy Gray has to say. They're like, what, fucking force the vote? We ain't gonna fucking force the vote. But I guess in some respects, this totally redeems Frannie Mae. I mean, I think this redeems Frannie Mae, right? Because it's like, all right, we'll go down with the ship.
Okay, so obviously it's getting deeply personal there. Opportunistic mouthpiece. Can't grasp simple concepts, not smart.
So this guy's just a rat who's going to go down with the ship. You know, this punk-ass pile of shit is just like, you know what? I'm just a rat's nest pile of shit. I'm a pile of shit of a bunch of rats. I'm a dick cheese. I'm a taint burger. I'm schmegma mixed with dingleberry and with dingleberry sauce, you know. Thanksgiving. Turkey dinner, gobble gobble.
But guys, and I'm not angry. Look, people have different opinions and they want to make it personal. It is what it is, right? I'm more sad about it.
He debuted this edgy haircut. Stark contrast from his character in the movie. Sources have revealed after struggling with a huge toll on his physical and mental health, Baldoni was prompted to make big changes. Justin's physical and mental well-being was severely impacted by this. An insider told Daily Mail it's extremely disturbing for him to look back at photos of himself from last summer when all this was going on. Now, look, I can relate to this. I'm sure a lot of you watching can. When you need a change to your emotional state and being and you're stuck, a haircut can actually really do that. If you have your typical look and you actually shave it off or grow it out or dye it or do something crazy to it, it really can change your point of view of, okay, we're starting a new phase. We're doing something else. For the longest time.
What has it got you? What did it get you? When you go and fucking share a stage with Dr. fucking Phil, what did it get you? Nothing. You know why? Because you look like a bitch. You know what I'm saying? You look like a bitch. That's what it is. Like, that's just what it comes down to. You don't look like a fighter. You don't look smart. You look like a bitch. That's just the reality. I've tried to tell it to you nicely. I've tried to tell it to you cordially. I've tried to tell it to you on your show, on my show, on every show. And so, either you, A, are a bitch, or B, you actually agree with the right. And I'm starting to think, in fact, I do think it's the latter.
So she says you look like a bitch, and then she says that it's either A, you are a bitch, or you agree with the right. So she's actually saying he's not a bitch. Why did you back away from the bitch thing? You're both bitches. You're all a bunch of bitches. All you motherfuckers are a bunch of fucking bitches. Listen to this bitch.
The idea that he would want the restrictions in the Olympics.
Shut up, you bitch. Let's listen to this bitch.
Focused on the issue of homelessness.
Oh, go on and on with your homelessness, bitch. Listen to this bitch.
Say something at the end about that. But But to me, the attitude that is toxic, and that's what I don't want at TYT. I want to build a community.
It's your goddamn attitude. You motherfucking bitch. Fucking your attitude. Look at your attitude, bitch. You bitch.
Especially in a city that I used to call home, which is San Francisco. She had an objectively scary experience with an unhoused person, and in fact, I went back to see when she told her audience about this. And I do remember the day that Anna told the story on air.
Or in professional sports, again, makes no sense because those are private organizations. They should be allowed to make their own rules. We can object to those rules. We can call out the Olympics for being absolutely stupid, call out those records that the biological males are setting and breaking as fraudulent records. But the fact is, it is not on us to police what goes on in the WNBA because
that is really open to conversations is they refuse to learn from us. So the idea is, well, obviously I'm right and the only moral center of the universe, and I already told him that, and this guy wouldn't even learn from me. It's just such a deeply arrogant thought that if someone disagrees with you, they need to be re-educated, and maybe they haven't read any books at all. Okay, did she stop there? Of course not.
Has Cenk read any fucking books? I mean, seriously. Is this motherfucking... Is he educated?
You think you know Wix? Do you really?
Because if you understand anything about education, education is a lifelong process. You don't just, get educated and then you're done. You keep getting educated. You know, she had that thing about how, when it comes to fascism, you don't preemptively sell out and change your viewpoints in order to be more, appealing to the fucking fascist fucking brigade. If you sell out to begin with, then you're already cutting your fucking leverage. I mean, according to Frederick Douglass, power never concedes without a demand, and never has and never will. And then either the oppression, the limits of tyrants is based upon the tolerance of the oppressed. The limits of tyrants is based upon the endurance of the oppressed. As long as the oppressed continues to endure the shit, then the tyrant will just keep walking all over them. If you find the exact measure of how much you could oppress a person, you know the exact measure of how much injustice you could put upon them. And that oppression and that injustice will carry on until words or blows. Until words or blows. I'm paraphrasing Frederick Douglass, but
And yes, as I told Cenk, I do feel very implicated. I have felt implicated by their takes, specifically around crime and policing in years past. Definitely by this new heel turn since Trump's reelection, and absolutely by the misrepresentation of the Los Angeles fires and who the responsibility lies on. It is enraging, to say the least.
The Los Angeles fires are not the responsibility of the mayor. They're apparently the responsibility of Republicans. I don't know. I don't know what her thought on that is. I don't know why she's enraged
some
by
information
that
led her down the wrong path. Now, why is this a win for all? Well, it's certainly a win for Justin Baldoni because he would become vindicated. But it would require Blake Lively to apologize, and I mean apologize. In her apology, she could go after the PR lady who leaked messages to her. I know it's far-fetched. I'll share what the commenter has to say. I'm also going to share the wild bombshell tea that you all are jonesing for. We are willing and able to share the tea. See what I did there? Jen Abel, in her new court documents, is sharing what Stephanie Jones, I guess what the corporate lifestyle was like, calling it, lots of different choice words. We're going to jump all into it right now. So, and by the way, I want to give a shout out as I share these court documents to our pal over here, Laura.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back.
Because that is a private organization. They do receive welfare from the NBA in order to stay operational.
They get welfare from the NBA.
Every single day you see us criticizing Trump and Elon Musk over and over and over and over again, telling you how they're going to do a $4.5 trillion robbery in those tax cuts. Yesterday we talked about how they're already hammering Social Security and costing good Americans, what they need from Social Security, how they're going to cut $800 billion from Medicaid, how there's a series of robberies on the way, etc. But it's okay. Let's just simplify things and say anyone who disagrees with
after she told that story, but I didn't hear it at the time. It was within an interview that she was doing with an author by the name of Michael Schellenberger, who had written the book San Francisco, Why Progressives Are Ruining Cities. Instead of focusing on housing market prices, on how homelessness often leads to things like addiction and mental illness, mentally ill, undocumented man in Los Angeles,
a little bit as a right
who was found.
But the good news is, at least Francesca will not be implicated anymore. And I never understood that.
But the NBA is also a private organization. So the position should be professional sports can do whatever they want. However, we would heavily advise them to not destroy the sole purpose of female sports. But everything beneath that, obviously because it's being supported by the taxpayers, obviously because you're using Title IX in order to force these leagues and these athletic programs on many of these schools, need to actually serve the purpose that they have, which is of course to be female sports.
So
and unlike male sports, which is all about maximizing competition, that does not require any gender-specific rules. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If a female were to be capable of participating in male sports, she should be allowed.
Believe it or not, she did not stop there. This is now another show.
We are diving back in.
So Cenk's line up until this point has been, no, it's at the collegiate level and above. I think once you get to the college level and above, that's when it's bad. So he would be on board with what the NCAA said recently. But you're so dumb. You're so dumb. I don't even know how to explain this to you anymore. Unless, this is the other option, unless you also are a transphobe. You know what I'm saying? Unless you also are kind of a misogynist.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car.
All case.
Okay, you ready?
And we're going to look at Blake Lively's motion to dismiss.
Because if you disagree with Francesca or anyone on that part of the spectrum,
does it have teeth?
Well, you must
Should
be a
Baldoni and his
misogynist.
team be worried?
You must be collaborating with the fascists, and obviously you must be unintelligent.
This video,
now, if I had called her dumb,
the motion to dismiss,
I wonder what her reaction would have been. My guess is
good
nuclear.
legal arguments
But I didn't call her that because we have a disagreement. We have a political disagreement. You don't need to make it personal. Not done yet. One last one.
What has it got you? What did it get you? When you go and share a stage with Dr. Phil, what did it get you? Nothing.
Filed last week, and
you know why?
It hits all of the different causes of action.
But who was not
some
responsible
of them is just kind of
for the
conclusory
wildfires
statements as far as
and again,
progressive mayors.
It's okay to be a centrist. It's okay. And this is the final point on all this. The final point on this is something that Anat Shenker-Osorio said yesterday. I had her on my show explicitly because after this election, I think a lot of us have been racked with this idea, it's like, and we've been told it's the woke left and that's the problem and they just wanted so much and they're so mean on Twitter to me specifically in my mentions, right? And something that Anat said, let me read it to y'all. The job of a good message isn't to say what's popular. It's to make popular what we need said. And she also said, and I said this yesterday, that the right is very good, not at messaging to where people are at now, but where they're capable of going.
Out prejudice, which means Justin Baldoni and his team will be able to
if you're at that skill level, we want you in the best possible league. However, of course, female sports exist by excluding males. The only reason we have female sports is to be a carve-out for women to have their own sports, and that carve-out is based solely on the idea that males are not included. So the entire point and premise of female sports is no men in those sports, no boys in those sports, so you cannot subvert that by having these transes that have all the natural advantages of biological males in those particular leagues. And it makes no sense for high school, makes no sense for college. Again, just gotta call out Cenk for his absolutely ridiculous position right there. Now again, all of this is fireable stuff. All of this is ridiculous. When you're going out of your way to cut your boss and of course the executive producer of the flagship show for the network that you're working at out of context in order to lie about them, in order to promote yourself, right? Promote your own podcast, and promote the new network that you're going to, those are fireable offenses. But again, Cenk did not let her go after all of that. He accepted the fact that Francesca Fiorentini operates like a child, that she's an absolute doofus from top to bottom, but it was only when she decided that she was offended that the young turtle was helping to distribute her podcast, and then Cenk said, okay, I mean, if you're going to draw the line right here, if you're...
It really just stands out all the more. Let me give you some backstory, though, of Anna and my friendship. We've never been close, despite a hike, a dinner, and the time that she generously gave me a gift for my new baby, and then explained to me that she was going to debate Ben Shapiro because, in her words, she, quote, felt she could win over his audience. 2 moments with Anna stand out for me in terms of how I've always treated her. In 2016, I was working with AJ Plus, and we were at the RNC. I had just started going on TYT a little bit and meeting everyone. And TYT was there, and Anna was there, and she was frustrated because she hadn't been booked on many appearances on camera, and instead a panel of men mostly clogged up the day. I stood next to her and told her how annoying that was, and just tried to build her up in solidarity. Then in 2019, we went out to lunch in Los Angeles at an awesome spot that she knew of. And Anna confided to me that she was frustrated about leadership at TYT. How she wasn't involved in day-to-day decision-making, and how Cenk viewed her more as a kid sister rather than a co-equal partner. And at the time, she wanted to branch out on her own and do videos on a new channel. I implored her at that moment to stay. I said that it's always women that tend to walk away from organizations, even when they've helped build them up to the point that they're at. I told her to fight for more of a decision-making role and to not walk away. And she did. And it looks like the editorial decisions that we see being made at TYT are in part because she now has the reins. In a way, I'm proud of her, even if I don't like the coverage. In November of last year, in an effort to understand where Anna was coming from and why she was doing what she was doing, I invited her to come on my show, The Bituation Room. She agreed, but also told me that she had a family emergency that sounded bad, and I told her to not worry and that we would find a time in the new year. That week, she went on Glenn Beck's show, and it kind of puzzled me, to be honest. She obviously now is likely not going to come on my show, in part because Cenk did. And I wanted to talk to him about his own very cordial conversations with the right since the election or re-election of Donald Trump.
Essentially going to quit the network, and you're going to do everything but actually pull the what she has at her current firm. So as a trade-off, she's likely taking less money in order to help build up a new company. Maybe it will build up to the point where it can pay her what she wants to be paid financially. But she is not in it 100% for the money, and she has decided to accept those terms. Now, my wife, who's much younger than Francesca Fiorentini, is mature enough and rational enough to make that decision, understand that there's trade-offs, and then not complain constantly about a decision that she made. Francesca Fiorentini, who is 42 years old, is saying that she should get credit for churning down.
Use this tool to
various figures, from Charlie Kirk to Patrick Bet-David to Tim Pool.
Thank you so much, Morgan.
Lover, again,
because Wendy's
about how
takes the streets, honey.
But the left is often cruel and too extreme.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess, honey. So yes. Right. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move on.
So that right there was Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett making fun of Texas Governor Greg Abbott for being in a wheelchair, for being disabled. For those of you who are unaware, Greg Abbott has been disabled since he was 29 years old when an oak tree fell on him, paralyzing him below the waist.
That at a time where people are literally being disappeared for their political beliefs by this right-wing agenda. Anyone can watch the discussion. I put it in the link below, and it's honestly offer, which, by the way, you should always ask for an offer before you pledge loyalty to anyone or any company. Living. I have a fraction of the following.
And here
of
is
TYT,
Jasmine Crockett, supposedly an advocate for the marginalized, at the Human Rights Campaign Award dinner, which again is an organization that supposedly advocates for the marginalized, making fun of Greg Abbott for being a crippled, for being disabled, because, you know, you're only really marginalized when you have a D next to your name. Once you have that R next to your name, you're kind of subhuman trash no matter what demographic you fall into. And by the way, this is something that should be surprising to no one. No one in this country should be shocked by
the idea that they choose to focus on me or other leftist creators in their field is honestly